Hello everyone, welcome back to the next session of Kanji Oboma show. Let's memorize Kanjis. Today we will pick up where we left off in the previous session. We will be starting with the 31st Kanji of the Kodansha Kanji Learners course. I will be modifying the format slightly. I will be skipping on the stroke order. So if you're keen and if you're interested, please pause the video and have a look at the stroke order and then continue. So without wasting any more time, let's move on quickly to the first Kanji of the day. This is Kanji number 31. Yeah. This is how that Kanji is written. Now let's quickly have a look at the mnemonic and maybe guess what the meaning of this Kanji could be based on that. So if you recall, we previously did a Kanji which looks like this, and this Kanji means tree. So at the base of the tree, what do you expect to find? So below the ground, there is a part of the tree. What do you expect to find? That part of the tree being the root, of course. And this extra stroke that we add, this extra stroke is supposed to imply root. There is an alternate format given in the book, but for now we need not bother ourselves with it. Let's just focus on the Joyo Kanji list and in the most common way that it is usually seen. So this is that Kanji and it means the following. It means basis or origin or root. These three meanings are usually similar to each other, which is why I'm writing them side by side. One other meaning that this Kanji has is book, and because book and basis don't really have a lot in common, I'm writing it in the next line. I'm going to follow this convention from now. And the last meaning is this. Now let's have a look at some words for this. This is oops, I forgot. Let me do the on and kunyomi before I continue. There, the kunyomi is moto and the onyomi is hon. Hon. So this will be read as hondo, hondo, which means the original land or the original soil, which means mainland, mainland. So you can understand that very well. You can even think about any countries that have parts of islands to it. So you could say Hong Kong and Macau are separate, and when you want to talk about the rest of China, you can say mainland China. So that would be Hondo. Similarly, in the case of India, you have Andamans and Nicobars, which are islands, but if you want to talk about the rest of India, you will say Hondo, mainland India. Okay, that's that. Now this is how you actually write Japan in Japanese. This is how you write it in Japanese, and this is read as both Nihon or Nippon. Japan. It becomes really easy to remember if you think of Japan as the land of the rising sun. You know, the origin of the sun or something like that. Okay. Let's have a look at some more meanings. Now this of course refers to the second meaning, which is book, and this is to be read as Ano Hito no Hon. Ano Hito no Hon, which means that person's book. Now let's have a look at the last meaning. This will be read as Honjitsu, which means this day or today. And one more, This will be read as Honin, which means the person himself or herself, or the said person. Okay, pretty simple, nothing too difficult about it. Let's have a look at the next kanji. Kanji number 32. Let's quickly look at the mnemonic and maybe we'll be able to understand how that comes up. So you can think of this kanji as a combination of two other kanjis. The first one being, of course, this, and the second one being this. If you combine them, or if I have to show you how, I will show you individually as strokes. First, let me draw the tree, and then I will draw the sun. So you can think of it as the sun rising behind a tree. But where does the sun rise? The sun rises in the east. So that is why this kanji stands for east. Okay, pretty simple, not too complicated. The meaning is east. Let's have a look at the onen kunyomis. The kunyomi is higashi and the onyomi is to. Let's quickly have a look at some words. What do you suppose this means? It's pretty simple. It means East Japan, and you will read it as Higashi Nihon. Higashi Nihon. Let's have a look at another word. For those of us who visited Japan, this is pretty obvious. It means the east exit, and you usually have these exits in public places, most notably the railway station. So you will have the east exit, north exit, south exit, west exit. So this kanji represents the east exit. So you can remember this as a tip, that the kanji for mouth can often also represent entrances and exits. Just like in the case of river mouth, where it means that it is the entrance point. So this is east exit, and you will read it as Higashiguchi. Higashiguchi. I hope you guys have been putting in your hiragana and katakana practice. So this is pronounced as Higashi Ajiya, and Ajiya stands for Asia. So this means East Asia. Okay, pretty simple how this kanji works. One last example. Now this Chimor stands for Timor, and this means East Timor. For those of you not familiar with Timor, please Google. Let's quickly move on to the next kanji. This is the 33rd kanji. This is how it's written. Let's quickly have a look at the mnemonic. So imagine a person. No, this person is just standing there. Now suddenly this person wants to appear really big or take up as much space as they can. So how can they do it? They can do it by stretching their arms and legs as far as they can. So this kind of looks like yeah, can you see it? I hope you can see it. So the meaning of this kanji is big. There is another meaning, and that meaning is university. We will see at a later point of time how this university meaning can be memorized. For now, just try to keep in mind that this also means university. Let's have a look at the onen kunyomis. There's O. There's Oki. There's Oini. And there is Dai and Tai. Let's have a look at some words. I hope you guys have been practicing the previous kanjis that we have done, because otherwise it's going to become a mountain which you will not be able to climb. So this is of course literally meaning big money, which means large sum of money. And you will read it as Thaikin. Thaikin. Now this is of course one of the kunyomis itself. It is Oki, which means big or grand. Then you have another kunyomi, which is Oini, which means very or highly. Very or highly. Now this is an interesting kanji, the next one that we are going to do. Now it means big person, but what do you mean by big person? Do you mean a person who's who has a large physique, who's like really tall or really hefty? No, it means a more obvious big person, which is an adult. An adult. And this adult will not be read as Thaijin or Daijin or any variation thereof. This will be read as Otona. Otona. Please bear that in mind. This is a bit of an exceptional reading, so please bear that in mind. Now, just for your information, this is one more example given in the book. But because I have not covered that meaning in too much detail here, I will be skipping over too much. My goodness, I'm sorry. You know what? I think I'll just take a breath and write it down, because I'm messing it up too many times. Yeah, okay. So this will be read as Todai, and this means Tokyo University. But please remember that this is an abbreviation an abbreviation. The actual would be Tokyo Daigaku, but Tokyo has been shortened to To and Daigaku has been shortened to Dai, which is why it is Todai. We will look at the other kanji that comes for university, that is Daigaku. We will look at Gaku, and at that time you will be able to see why Dai can be remembered as university. So moving on, let's have a look at the 34th kanji. This is how we write that one. And now let's quickly have a look at the mnemonic. So imagine the person in the previous example who spread their arms and legs wide in order to appear big. Now imagine if the same person decided to, bring both their legs together and close their arms hold their arms as close to their body as possible. So what does this do? The person has made themselves small. So that is the meaning. Small. The person has made themselves small by drawing their legs together and keeping their arms as close to their body as possible. Now let's have a look at the on and kunyomis. Chisai, ko, and o. And the onyomi is sho. Sho. Let's have a look at some words. This will be read as Shonotsuki, which means a small month. Literally a small month. So what is a small month? If you think of months as of two kinds, 31 days and 30 days, the exception being February with 28 and 29 days, then a month would be big if it has 31 days, and it would be small if it has 30 days or less than 30 days. So this is that meaning. A month with 30 days or fewer. A month with 30 days or fewer. Okay, Shonotsuki. Now let's have a look at the next one. Now, this means big and small, obviously. Big and small, and you will read it as Daisho. Daisho. So when I say big and small, of course you're talking about size, so bear that in mind. You can say the size of something as daisho, so you're talking about the size. Okay, let's have a look at one more. Now this is an interesting kind of kanji. You will read it as koguchi. This does not mean small mouth. This means a small lot, a small amount of money, or you can call it the end edge. And of course one of the kunyomis, this will be read as chisai, which obviously means small. Okay, let's move to the next kanji. We're on kanji number 35, and this is how that kanji is written. Let's have a look at the mnemonic. let's say you have a thing here and you want to cut it in half. How would you do it? You would do it like so. So you've cut it in half by cutting it right down the middle, right? So the meaning of this kanji is middle, or it can mean in, that is to say throughout, or it can also mean China. Can also mean China, because there was a time that China was known as the Middle Kingdom, which is why this kanji is associated with China. It's not a very important detail. Just know that this is one of the kanjis for China. The other one, of course, being in the introduction video. Bonus points to those who can recognize this. Okay, we'll do this again, but until that excuse me, until that time, please remember this as China. Okay, so let's have a look at the on and kunyomis. It's called naka, or it can be called as ju or ju. Okay, let's have a look at some words. So this, of course, the English meanings themselves will tell you what they are. Middle East, and this will be read as Chuto. Then you have, let me rewrite that, which will be read as nakani, which could mean in the middle of, or it can mean in between. It can also mean among. Quite a few meanings, but nakani is quite a phrase that will be repeated quite often. There will be many opportunities to use it, many opportunities where you hear it used. So this will not be confusing. It's just a matter of time until you hear phrases with nakani. Okay, let's have a look at the next example. So this will be read as nichu. There are two meanings to this. The first one being during the day. The other meaning for this is Japan and China, or Japanese and Chinese. Let me write that in the next line. Or Japanese and Chinese. Okay, there's one more that I would like to share with you. Honjitsuchu. Honjitsuchu, which means within today, or just today. And this is going to be something you will use at work if you use Japanese to communicate at work. Otherwise, you will not come across this much. I'm not sure if I mentioned this when we did the Hon Kanji. Here, Honjitsu is a very formal way of saying today, so this is very formal. This is very formal. You will use it at work, in your work emails and things like that. So in such circumstances, you can say honjitsuchu when you're talking about deadlines. So that's where you will use it. Let's move to the next kanji. 36. Okay, that's how that's written. Now let's have a look at the mnemonic. Now imagine that this is the ground. This is the ground. And imagine that there is a plant growing from it. The plant has sprouted some branches, and this is the first leaf that it has. The first leaf that it has. If I have to draw it a bit more properly, let's say this is the plant, this is one branch, this is one more branch. It has a leaf there. This is the first leaf. So can you see how it resembles that kanji? I hope you're able to see it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I hope you can see it. So this kanji has a bunch of meanings. The most common one being life or grow. The next being to be born, just like this little plant, or to give birth. And then it also means student. These are the three broad categories of meaning that this kanji carries. Now, this kanji has a bunch of on and kunyomis. So let's start having a look at those. So ikiru, ikasu, ikeru, umareru, umare, or it can even be umare. It can also be umu. It can be ou. It can be haeru. Can be hayasu. It can also be ki or nama or nama. Okay, these are all the kunyomis that this kanji has. But try not to memorize all of them because it's really difficult. Instead, try and memorize a few of the kanji compounds, the vocabulary words that we'll be using, and try to memorize how this kanji is pronounced in each of those situations and what meaning it takes up. Okay, let's have a look at the onyomis. Onyomis are pretty simple. You have sei and you have sho. Okay, let's have a look at sample words. Let me rewrite that. Yeah, this will be read as jinsei, and which means life, or specifically human life. Okay, let's have a look at one more. This will be read as isho, not ichisho but isho, and this means all one's life or a lifetime. A lifetime. Okay, now this will be read as namabiru, which means draft beer. Oh, I forgot to mention one meaning. It also has the meaning of a raw. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. I apologize. So, draft beer. Then you have one of the kunyomis, which is umareru, which means to be born. To be born. And Kodansha, which means a student of Tokyo University. I'll just shorten it to uni. Tokyo Uni student. Okay, so just try to keep, let me mark it in pink again, or let me try and highlight it. Try to memorize these, raw and say and nama and this. These are some of the important meanings that show up. The rest of them are okay, you'll be able to memorize them over time, but these are the important ones, so try and keep these in mind. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This would be kanji number 37. Now this is another kanji that we have done previously in the introduction video, but I'll do it all the same. Excuse me. So let's just have a look at the mnemonic. So let's say This is like a pretty scenery out here. It's quite a pretty scenery out there. I hope you can understand what I'm trying to show here. It should be pretty obvious, but I can never tell. Okay, maybe that was not necessary, so oops. And now let's say oops. I hope it's pretty obvious what I'm trying to show here. Right? I hope it's quite simple. So we're talking about a bunch of hills or a bunch of mountains there. That's the river, that's the sun. So if I was to show you how this kanji shows up in this, now let me use a contrasting color. Unfortunately, I'm not very good at picking out colors. Okay, so I'll stick with this bright pink color. Now let's see, this is peak number 1. Okay, I'll use a fatter brush. This is your peak number 1. This is your peak number 2. This is your peak number 3. Do you see how that becomes a, or do you remember, or do you see the association between the kanji and the actual thing that it is trying to represent? So what this means is mountain. It means mountain. Pretty obvious if you see how that works out. I have to erase it because it's taking up too much space, but otherwise I hope I have clarified how that comes up. Okay, so let's have a look at the on and kunyomis. So the kunyomi is yama and the onyomi is sun. Kunyomi is sun. Let's have a look at some words. Now what do you imagine this is? If you remember your kanji, this means quite obviously fire mountain. Now what kind of mountain has a fire on it? It's a volcano. So that's what this means. It means volcano. And it is read as Khazan. Khazan. Okay. This is read as Sanzi. Oops. Sansui. Sansui. And this means landscape. You know the drawing that I had just made? You know, mountains in the river, or mountains and water in this case. So it's a landscape. Okay. Now this is more closely related to the drawing that I made, and this is Sun Sen, which means the mountains and rivers. Mountains and rivers. This is Koyama. A small mountain is a hill. Is a hill. So Yama, which, if you remember, you can also write like this. So this is Yama. which means mountains, simply more than one mountain, or very much, usually meaning that it is quite difficult to do. That is to say, if you have to climb mountain after mountain repeatedly, and you're trying to talk about a particular task, then obviously it means that that task is quite difficult, right? So you can think of it as wanting to do something but being unable to do it because of the difficulty. Okay. Okay. Let's have a look at the next kanji now. Kanji number 38. Okay. It's a bit of a difficult kanji to draw because you can usually get it wrong, or one other way of doing it. Let me show you the other way of doing it. So where it kind of looks like a piece of cactus. Okay. So one way of memorizing this is to think of one mountain giving rise to another mountain, or throwing out or putting out another mountain. And the meaning of this kanji is to go out or to put out. So here the mnemonic is one mountain putting out another mountain. Not the most obvious kind of hint, but still it's enough. Let's have a look at the onen kunyomi. You have deru. Oops, I forgot the parenthetical. You have deru. You have de. You have dasu. And you have dasu. Okay. And it is read as the kunyomi, of course, being shutsu or sui. Shutsu is the more common reading. You will come across more words with shutsu than not. So let's have a look at some words. Okay. This is simply the hiragana reading deru, which means to go out, to depart, or also means to be present. In the sense you've attended an event, so you were present at that event, that meaning. Then you have another kunyomi, which is read as dasu, which means to put out, to produce, or to expose. Okay. Now let's have a look at some more words. This is read as Deguchi. And as I said previously, the mouth kanji can also mean an exit. So here Deguchi is literally just exit. That is the place from where you go out. Exit. Okay. Now this is read as Hi no De, which means sunrise. You know, when the sun comes out, it's sunrise. And then one more. This will be read as Shusho. Shusho, which means birth. Okay, you have come out and been born, so it's birth, right? There's lots of usages of this kanji, and you will come to see some words when we do other kanji. There's lots of combinations with this one, and by and large how to use this kanji is something you will get with practice once you start conversing with someone. But otherwise I think the meaning is retained across, but the variety of uses is truly amazing. There's quite a few kanji like that. We'll see them as we go along, but for now this is enough. So we can move on to the next kanji, which is the 39th kanji. Okay. Now this, if you remember, is very similar to this, is it not? So how do we distinguish? It's basically the stroke order which shows you how. I think I may have made a mistake in the stroke order of this, so let me rewrite it. So this is how you write that, right? So this versus this. Okay, that's one difference. Okay. Another way of memorizing this, a mnemonic if you will, is to say that this is a river. This first stroke is a river, and then there is another river. So stroke 1 is a tributary of the river 2. So 1 is being absorbed by 2, or you can even think of as 1 is entering 2. You know, thinking of it as tributaries of a river. Okay, so 1 is entering 2. 1 enters 2. And the meaning of this kanji is enter or put in. Now just because I wrote another kanji there, it should, because I don't want it to be mistaken for a different kanji, I will use this color to show you the contrast, and this kanji is for hito. You can go back and refer the previous kanji. I can even give you the number. This is kanji number 11. So please go back and refer to kanji number 11 and you'll be able to see the differences. So this current kanji means enter or put in. Let's have a look at the on and kunyomi. It is, one of them is iru. Then you have suffix iru. You have suffix iri. You have ireru. Oops, I forgot the parentheticals. You have ireru. You have suffix ire. And then you have hairu. Again, I made a slight mistake. It is hairu. And the onyumi is new. New. Let's have a look at some words. So this is iru, which means to enter or to put in, basically. To put in. Oops, I apologize. So the reading for put in is slightly different. The reading for put in is this ireru. So if it's iru, it's enter. If it's ireru, it's put in. And there is another reading for this kanji, which is hairu, which also means to enter. It can also mean to contain or to have. Okay. Okay. Let's have a look at another word. Again, just like deguchi, this is iriguchi, which means entrance. Right? Now, this is nyukin, which is a deposit or a payment. You've put some money inside. Okay, pretty simple, not too difficult. Again, the distinction between this 39th kanji and the 11th kanji, one way of memorizing it is of course the stroke order, where 39 goes 1 and 2 and 11 goes 1 and 2. So because 1 is a smaller one and it is entering into a bigger one, the meaning you can retain it as enter. Okay. Let's look at the last kanji for today, kanji number 40. The last kanji for today, I hope we've done it faster than usual. I'll be very disappointed if it's not faster than usual. This is the 40th kanji. Okay. Now imagine this being the ground. Imagine this being the ground. So where do you imagine the roots of a tree to grow? The roots of a tree will obviously grow they will grow below the earth or under the ground. So the meaning here is down. below, or even lower, or even lower. It's not the most obvious kanji, but you will come to understand how to memorize this once we do the next kanji, that is the 41st kanji. So for now, just think of it as something sticking below the ground. So you think of the first stroke on top, this stroke, so just think of this as the ground, and there is something sticking below the ground. Okay, uh, how to memorize this kanji will be it will become much easier once you do the next kanji. So for now, this should be enough. Okay, now let's quickly have a look at the on and kunyomis. So it has quite a few kunyomis, so let's have a look at them. The first is shita, then you have shimo, then you have moto, then you have sageru, then you have sagaru, then you have kudaru, have kudari, then you have kudasu, you have kudasu, kudasaru, orosu, and oriru. Just quite a few meanings as well. Some of these meanings have not been covered directly, that is, it has meanings beyond these three words in white that I've written on top. Let's quickly have a look at the onyomi. You have ka and you have ye. Okay, let's have a look at some words. Let me write that properly. This is read as gesui. Just think about it. What is the water that runs below? It is sewage. It is sewage or drainage, right? This is read as meshita. Meshita. One reading of it is meshita, which means subordinate. Subordinate. Now, if you know, Japan is a very hierarchical society, and you can think of it like this: a person in a higher position will only look at their eye level or above when they're looking at their peers or their bosses, and for anyone who's below them, they will have to lower their eyes to look at them, which is why they are meshita. Okay, another way of reading it would be moka, and moka means now or at present. Now or at present. Okay, let's have a look at the next word. This is kawashimo. Kawashimo, which will be read as downstream downstream or downriver. River below. Okay. Now, oops. Okay. You will read this as Kawada-san. No. Stani. So this means under Mr. or Miss or Mrs. whatever. Kawada. Kawada's supervision. Even in English, we often omit the supervision part, which means you're basically a subordinate of Mr. Kawada or of Miss Kawada or whoever that is, this person, Kawada-san. Again, in Japanese, there will be no distinction between whether it's a man or a woman, they're all san. So, yeah, please bear that in mind. So, under Kawada-san. So, which means under Kawada-san supervision, or that Kawada-san is your boss. That's how that has to be understood. Now, there are quite a few other meanings that I said which have not been covered here. They will be covered later on, or you will come to know those words once you do some more associated words. If not, I will try to cover them at a later point in time, but for now, I think I will leave it at this. And that completes our target of 10 kanjis for this session. I hope you are able to follow. I hope this is not too fast, and I hope you're able to manage kanjis without feeling overwhelmed by them. In any case, thank you for watching. See you next time.